What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so I just made a video yesterday, as a matter of fact, talking about the attorney for the district. I forget what district it is in Virginia, the U.S. Attorney's Office, essentially. There's rumors going around that the lead prosecutor is going to be fired by Trump because the lead prosecutor doesn't want to prosecute Letitia James for clear fraud. He's too scared. This is too political. I don't want to be accused of anything by the left. I'm so fearful here. And he's, quote unquote, a Trump appointee. This is all smears, by the way, because there are no Republican senators in Virginia. So, senators are the ones that recommend attorneys to the president for nomination to the federal circuits or whatever. So, it's fascinating. So it's a Trump appointee, but it was recommended by Democrats, so it's a Democrat appointee. Like, that's why none of that ever makes any sense, folks. Anytime you hear, oh, well, this is a Bush appointee, you might want to look into that a little bit further to see if they're actually Republican. Just because they're appointed by a president that's Republican or Democrat does not mean that they are Republican or Democrat, right? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, these rumors were a brazen attack on the rule of law, and they also, and some unsubstantiated claim, has the entire district, the prosecutor's office is in disarray because of some unsubstantiated rumors. It's fascinating. But look, this is just a quick update, and I know I've been ranting for a minute. Check this out. U.S. attorney under pressure to charge Letitia James in mortgage fraud case has resigned. So, instead of getting fired, this person resigns and actually throws the office into utter disarray. It's very fascinating, but this is not what we're covering today, folks. Absolutely not. I just wanted to bring that quick update because I just covered that and we have some new information, so I wanted to give that to you guys. So let's get into what we're covering. Check this out. DOJ wants to put attempted Kavenaugh assassin behind bars for at least 30 years. Now, we found out recently something very, very fascinating about this case. Do you guys remember back in 2022 when somebody tried to sneak into Kavanaugh's house to take him out of the game? Yeah, well, we understood because of who they were going after and the decision that Kavenaugh was making, the Dobbs decision, why they were going after them. We understood implicitly that that was a leftist, but, we never got any confirmation from anybody. But apparently, now come to find out, they are directly tied to trans ideology, folks. Like, it is becoming more and more apparent that this trans ideology is directly connected with mental instability and political violence in this country. Look, I'm not saying all, but there is a direct link here. And this is something, once again, that conservatives have been saying for a long time, ever since this exploded like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whenever it did, that look, these are mentally unstable people. We don't need to be affirming these delusions. It's only going to push them further in one direction, further into that instability, further down the path of destruction, further down the path of sterilization, as a matter of fact. So let's get into this. But, the reluctancy of the Hill to actually come out and say that this is trans ideology is very fascinating, because every other news publication did, except for the Hill. That's who I cover, folks. The mainstream news, the corporate press that loves to lie. That's where I'm going to cover. I'm going to cover the lies, folks. We're going to push back against the nonsense. Let's get into this. Federal prosecutors said Friday they will seek to imprison the person who attempted to assassinate Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh at his home in 2022 for at least 30 years and up to life. Prosecutors' sentencing memo came as the defendant's public defenders newly indicated their client now uses female pronouns and goes by Sophie Roske. Funny, that is. Very funny. Oh, so they're just not willing to say that. But, the courts now, we need to use their preferred pronouns, for crying out loud. As if we care about an attempted assassin. as if we care about their preferred pronouns. We really don't, and we really shouldn't. We should not affirm these delusions. We should not incentivize these people to go down that path that we know has a very, very high rate of trying to take yourself out of the game, right? It's just not a good thing to incentivize, and that's what they're doing by affirming these delusions, folks. It's nonsense. It all is, and we know, and we're seeing more and more and more evidence that this leads to political violence in this country. She has not asked to recaption the case, the public defenders wrote, noting that Roskay's legal name hadn't been changed. So, once again, their legal name hadn't been changed. It has not been changed, so why are we using their preferred pronouns in court? Why? Doesn't make any sense to me. Out of respect for Mr. Roskay, the balance of this pleading and counsel's in-court argument will refer to him as Sophie and use female pronouns. It continued. Yeah, I'm trying to, if you can't see or read, I'm trying to change them so I don't make a mistake, so I don't lie to you guys, which is what they're doing here. They're lying to you, saying Mrs. and her and female pronouns, but blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to fix that on the fly as I go, so I might make a few mistakes, and I apologize for those mistakes. I don't want to have to issue any sort of correction. Roskay will be sentenced October 3rd after pleading guilty to a felony charge of attempting to assassinate a Supreme Court justice in April. Roskay admitted to traveling from California to Kavenaugh's home in the Washington, D.C. suburbs in June 2022. After arriving, Roskay abandoned the plans after speaking with 911 and a family member. Is that so? Are you sure about that, corporate press? Because I do believe that they got caught trying to break in, if my memory serves me correctly. And it does, as a matter of fact, because, once again, like I always say, I always read left, right, and center on these news stories. I always read the same news story 3 times from 3 different sources because, you know, each source, they want to focus in on certain details or whatever. So to get the entire story, that's part of my research or whatever, I always read left, right, and center to make sure I get everything. And yeah, none of the other news articles mentioned that right there. They all mentioned that he was caught attempting to break into the house. So, yeah, I think the Hill is trying to obfuscate what's going on here. Just saying. Authorities recovered a pistol, crowbar, ammunition, zip ties, and other weapons. Roskay wanted to change the conservative justice's view on major abortion and gun cases, court documents show. Prosecutors say Roskay also sent Discord messages days earlier indicating 2 other justices were targets. The defendants sought single-handedly and irrevocably to alter an entire branch of the United States government through violence, prosecutors wrote in Friday's filing. Their sentencing memo urges U.S. District Judge Deborah Boardman to follow the sentencing guidelines range of 30 years to life in prison, describing Roskay's crime as an act of terrorism. As a matter of fact, it was. That whole thing was an act of terrorism, right? It wasn't just Roskay, if you will, right? It was the entirety of all of those protesters that were actually breaking the law. You might think, what do you mean, protester? Yeah, they weren't rioting or nothing. They were peaceful protesters, but they were still breaking the law outright by gathering in front of Justice Kavanaugh's home. You can't protest, right? That's one thing people love to say. They love to say, oh, freedom of speech and all this other nonsense. Well, you know, there's limits to that. There's definitely limits to that in this country. And, you know, do I think it's right? I think they made a good judgment decision when they made that law that you cannot protest in front of a judge's home, especially on live issues that are in current public debate. You can't do that, because if these people are living in fear for their lives, for crying out loud, because we know, once again, all these leftist protests, they generally turn violent. And once again, as is with this case, they were protesting, and under the cover of night, this guy snuck in and tried to take one of the the justices out of the game, for crying out loud. I mean, that just proves my point right there, right? This is a good idea. These people should not be protesting in front of justices' homes, for crying out loud, for very, very good reason. We want blind justice. We don't want terrorized justices making decisions that will alter the course of this country, for crying out loud. Like, none of that makes any sense. And the fact that Biden's DOJ and the Marshal's office and the FBI, all of them refused to enforce that law right there. After getting excoriated in the Senate, after getting calls from just about every conservative or Republican lawmaker and some Democrats in this country to prosecute these people that are clearly and blatantly violating U.S. law. Break it up. They didn't even stop the protest, right? Like, it's one thing, look, I get it. You don't want to go in and arrest a bunch of protesters, right? But they didn't even try to stop the protests. What did they do? And then they patted themselves on the back for doing this. Oh, we sent the marshals out there to go protect the justices. Instead of trying to break up the protests, right? But you can do two things at once. Send the FBI. Send somebody to go bust up the local PD, for crying out loud. Let them know they're violating federal law right here. Yes, local PD can go arrest them, and then they will get charged with federal crimes, for crying out loud. Don't think that local PD can't arrest you for federal crimes. They absolutely can. But send the FBI, send somebody, right? But they could have done the same thing, right? It's a good idea. Yes, send the marshals, protect the justices. But at the same time as you're walking and chewing bubble gum, take these protesters and move them out of the way. Have them go protest in front of the Supreme Court instead of in front of the justices' homes. These people, they're nothing but orcs, if you will. You know the orcs from fiction. They're always the bad guys, right? They're just demonic beings that their only reason for existence is to kill humans. That's how we see these people, these leftists that turn violent. That's how we see them these days. There's no, negotiating with these people. There is no sitting down at a table trying to change their minds. We see the end result of what that specifically does. And we're tired of it, folks. We're sick to death of this nonsense political violence. But let's keep going, y'all. Rose K presented a very real threat to life to an individual and their family members, a threat that showed up at their home in the middle of the night, prosecutors wrote. No judicial or court official or their family should have to live under the fear and mental toll that they could, on any day, at any time of the day or night, be gunned down based on judicial decisions. Rose K has been treated for mental illness, but prosecutors said it does not excuse nor did it cause the defendant's decision to travel to Kavanaugh's home. I agree with that. When I first read that, I'm like, what do you mean it didn't cause it? But I see what they're trying to say here. I see exactly what they're trying to say. His mental illness did not cause him to have the views that he has. Did not cause him to drive over there, right? Mental illness does not cause you to do these things. That's a decision that you make, right? He's trying to excuse or get out from underneath the excuse that the mental illness caused this. And I get that. That's what a prosecutor is supposed to do. If you think that the defendant is of sound mind and body, boom, there you go. Now, could we call it into question? Yes, we could. It's definitely an argument, I will admit to that this person clearly has some mental issues going on, right? Anybody that buys into that transgender ideology, that actually, believes the delusions, believes the nonsense. There's something there that's not wired correctly. Not all, but there's some of those people, right? Definitely some of those people. And we're seeing a growing trend in these people just easily snapping to political violence, folks. It's insane. It's what it is. Rose's public defenders had not yet submitted their sentencing memo as of Friday afternoon. The 2022 incident elevated fears about the rising threats against the Supreme Court justices in recent years, which has continued to be a concern. Earlier Friday, House Republicans passed a stopgap measure that boosts the Supreme Court's security fund by $28 million in the wake of the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The package does not, however, address funding concerns for the lower court judges' security, as a matter of fact, and it doesn't. There's way too many of those. I think there's like almost 700 federal judges. You know how much that would be very hard to have everybody have at least 2 or 3 security officers at their homes every day. That's what, like 2,500, 3,000 people, just about. Yeah, about 2,500 people. That's insane, y'all. It really is. But is it worth it? Have we seen significant threats to lower court judges? That's what I would say to that. That would be the first question. If we have, then maybe that's something we should think about, right? But that would be also not in a stopgap measure. That would have to be, single subject legislation that's either by itself, standalone, or entered in with a funding bill with the appropriations or whatever. That would have to be something that they would have to debate, to be honest with you. And, we already can't afford most of the things that we purchase from the federal government, right? We're spending in a $1.8 trillion deficit, or at least we were as of the last fiscal year. So can we afford these things? Yeah, I don't think we can, folks. That's why they're trying to make so many significant cuts all over the place. And the federal government, the federal circuit, I should say, is not helping matters. These people think that the U.S. government can just fund anything all the way into oblivion. Well, that's for the legislature to worry about. You must spend this money and blah, 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 blah. I'm tired of seeing those news articles of these federal judges just going insane and saying the federal government must fund these grants. Oh, you're violating people's First Amendment rights without funding grants, without giving out grant money to people. It's insane. Yeah, I just got through reading a news article where these people are trying to claim that their First Amendment rights were violated because they did not receive a grant if they believed or bought into the gender ideology. Yeah, that's apparently a violation of your First Amendment rights, which it's not. It's absolutely not. Right? The First Amendment, there's nowhere in the First Amendment does it say that you're entitled to federal grants. There's nowhere anywhere in our Constitution that says you're entitled to federal grants, that we must give federal grants out to people specifically. It's insane, y'all. They do this as charity, as, trying to promote different things in the country, right? It's subsidies, essentially. Certain industries get grant money, blah, 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 blah. It's grant money, folks. It's like a loan, except generally you don't have to pay them back. It's insane, y'all. It really is the entitlement of people in this country, but I think I've rambled on for long enough on this one. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. It blows my mind. Absolutely does, y'all. Y'all don't forget, smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. And click that join button. You know you want to. But you guys remember that God is always with us. And He loves each and every one of you out there. So you guys remember that. Y'all try to have a good day. And stay legitical. Peace.